You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Mozart. The World at 8, the number one in nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, Wednesday, 29th of January 2014. 3 Muslim women tried to kidnap and rob sister's lesbian lover during row over arranged marriage. I go to Brussels to claim £200,000 a year in allowances, admits UKIP MEP who has done nothing in Parliament in the last year. Burqa escaped terror suspect begins appeal. German barn explosion caused by new secret weapon, flatulent cows. Denmark, no more Muslims, says DF leaders. Netherlands leads the way again. 8 would-be Syrian jihadists have their passports confiscated. Australia's Tony Abbott calls broadcaster ABC unpatriotic. New Zealand, Muslim refugee gropes women, blames cultural differences, avoids jail. From US helpers in Iraq to sex criminals in Colorado. Thought for the day, why are we Brits so anti-white? And finally, job interview for Guinness. UK News. 3 Muslim women tried to kidnap and rob their sister's lesbian lover during a row over an arranged marriage. Nazma Ditter, 27, entered into a secret relationship with Sarah Harrison, 35. The relationship went on for several months unknown to the family. Then Miss Ditter's family found out and attacked Miss Harrison as she left work in Blackburn, Lancashire. Her 3 sisters assaulted the woman, grabbing her hair and repeatedly kicking her. One said, "You've messed with the wrong Muslims, we're going to kill you." The women, along with 3 others, were jailed at Preston Crown Court today. Sarah Harrison, 35, was targeted as she left work. In CCTV video footage, Miss Harrison can be seen struggling with her attackers and attempting to run away. The woman's sister, Nazma Dita, 27, one of the 6 sisters and 3 brothers, had been due to enter into an arranged marriage, but Nazma had begun a secret relationship with Miss Harrison when both women worked at a clothes shop in the town. Ghazala Dita, Afla Dita and Nigat Morris pleaded guilty at an earlier hearing to conspiracy to commit actual bodily harm, attempted kidnap and robbery. They were all jailed for 5 years and 4 months. Tamor Dita pleaded guilty to the above charges and was also admitted assault and possession of an offensive weapon and was sentenced to 6 years. 2 other sisters, Tosif Dita, 35 and Naya Mahmood, 37, had pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit actual bodily harm and were imprisoned for 3.5 years. The children's mother, Rani Dita, 55, had been charged with conspiracy to kidnap, but in November the prosecution offered no evidence against her. Tamor Dita was jailed for 6 years and Tosif Dita for 3.5 years at Preston Crown Court. Judge Graham Knowles QC said this is a case about power and control. It's about striking terror and attempting to control not just the body but the will. This was a group ambush and you struck with the terror that all of you intended. World at 8. What the judge missed was that is how they would act in Pakistan or Bangladesh, and this behaviour would be unreported. You can also see how these people breed when given the money to do so by European countries. We are sowing the seeds of our own destruction. Deport them all is my recommendation. I go to Brussels to claim £200,000 in allowances, admits UKIP MEP who has done nothing in Parliament in the last year. UKIP MEP Trevor Coleman has defended claiming tens of thousands of pounds in allowances while barely speaking in Brussels. A UKIP MEP has admitted one of the only reasons he turns up in Brussels is to claim £200,000 in allowances. Trevor Coleman has not done anything in the European Parliament in the last year and has only taken part in half the votes since 2009. The South West MEP insisted he could not see the point in making speeches in the Parliament and instead claimed the taxpayers' money to fund an anti-EU website. All MEPs receive a salary of £78,000 a year but must clock in to the Parliament building in order to receive various allowances. However, Mr Coleman has only made speeches or asked questions just 19 times, well behind the average of the 5 other MEPs in the South West. Asked whether allowances were a factor influencing his decision, Mr Coleman said, "I wouldn't say getting the allowances is one of the main motivations. I'm trying to be fair about it. It is a factor, of course it is." He was confronted about his expenses during an interview on BBC's Sunday Politics West show. Mr Coleman said, why make a speech when you know that it is totally ineffective? World date. Bloody disgusting, but you voted for him, so what you see is what you get. As to his remark on ineffective, it may be that everything is preordained in the Church of the EU, but I would die trying, and so would any nationalist. Burqa escaped terror suspect begins appeal. Ahmed Mohammed, whose current whereabouts is unknown, has been granted legal aid in an effort to squash the orders restricting his movements. The 27-year-old, who went missing in November, has been linked to the Somali militant group Al-Shabaab. Justice Secretary Chris Grayling said the case was absurd. I've asked for an urgent review of the rules to prevent this kind of thing happening again, he said. It is completely unacceptable that someone who has flouted our laws and ignored a court order and fled in disguise should then be at the centre of a legal case funded by the taxpayer. Mr Mohammed is jointly appealing with a second terror suspect referred to as CF. Lord Justice Lloyd Jones ruled in 2012 that there were reasonable grounds for the Home Secretary to believe that the men had been involved in terrorism-related activity, including plans to target Western interests in Somaliland and East Africa. World at 8. WTF, not even present and still allowed to claim legal aid and sue the government. I know what most of us Brits would give him in absentia if there was a poll long enough. European news. German barn explosion caused by new secret weapon. Flatulent cows, man. Their manure, belches and flatulence are a major contributor to human-caused emissions of methane gas, itself sizable contributor to global warming. They pose a more immediate danger too, the AFP reports. Flatulence from 90 cows in a German barn sparked a methane gas explosion that damaged the building and left one cow slightly injured with burns, police said Tuesday. In the barn for 90 dairy cows, methane built up for unknown reasons and was probably ignited by a static discharge, exploding in a darting flame, said local police in the central town of Rasdorf in Hesse state. Parts of the roof cover were slightly damaged and a cow suffered minor burns, said the police, adding that a fire crew rushed to the scene of Monday's accident and a gas field crew later measured methane levels. World at 8. Cows are best outside in fields and have always been so. They should only come in for milking and at night to avoid predators. Bless them, love cows. Cows rule. Denmark. No more Muslims, say DF leaders. Calls to stop Muslims at the border lead rivals to compare DF members to Nazis. Senior members of Dansk Folkeparti espouse the opinion that there are enough Muslims in Denmark and border controls should be established to stop more from entering the country. DF's defence spokesperson Marie Krapp said that the time has come to completely halt Muslim immigration. We should limit the size of the Muslim minority in Denmark, Krapp wrote in a blog for the Berlinsk newspaper. Karina Lorentzen, who's the integration spokesperson for government coalition party Socialistic Folkeparti, showed no such restraint and compared the opinions expressed by the DF members to Nazism. Netherlands leads the way again. 8 would-be Syria jihadists have their passports confiscated. The passports of 8 people planning to travel to Syria to fight against President Assad have been confiscated, counter-terrorism chief Dick Schoof told Radio 1 on Tuesday. It is the first time passport confiscation has been used to prevent Dutch nationals travelling to fight in the war-torn country. The information that the 8 were planning to join the fighting came from a public prosecutor, the police or security service, Schoof told Radio 1. The counter-terrorism chief said that the 8 can take their case to the appeal court. He also said the move is effective, but said he must now wait to hear the judgment of a court on whether it is legally possible. MPs asked Justice Minister Ivo Opstelten on March 2013 to investigate whether the passports of young Dutch nationals who plan to fight with rebel forces in Syria can be confiscated. Over 100 Dutch nationals have travelled to Syria to join the fighting since the war broke out nearly 3 years ago. Several have been killed. World at 8. Good. As Europe is being forced to have the sodding Syrian refugees instead of another Muslim country, then we have no use for the rebels either. Send their families back and send them back. No money, no nothing, and they can forfeit this stupid Dutch or British nationality. It only enables them to get more money or rights. Scrap it now. World news. Australia's Tony Abbott calls broadcaster ABC unpatriotic. Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott has criticised national broadcaster ABC for taking everyone's side but Australia's. Mr Abbott said the publicly funded broadcaster should show some basic affection for the home team. The ABC has been at the forefront of reports on abuse claims from asylum seekers and reports that Australia has spied on Indonesia. The ABC had no immediate comment on Mr Abbott's statements. However, the opposition said that the government should welcome media scrutiny. The ABC Charter describes the corporation as the provider of an independent national broadcasting service. In December, ABC Managing Director Mark Scott defended the ABC's coverage of the spying allegations. "We are an independent media organisation and of course sometimes we will publish stories that politicians won't be happy about," he said. "That's the role we have to play." World at 8. Wouldn't it be lovely if a senior politician said the same thing about the biased British communists? New Zealand Muslim refugee gropes women, blames cultural differences and avoids jail. Women in Port Hill, New Zealand can feel confident because their legal system values the Port Hill gropers' standing in the Muslim community more than their safety. The family of the man accused of being the Port Hill's groper fears he'll be ostracised by their Muslim community if his identity is revealed, a court was told today. Name suppression was continued for the 63-year-old after a judge decided he may have psychological issues if he was found guilty of grabbing, groping and licking 15 women on the running trails. He blamed his offending on a misunderstanding of cultural differences. World at 8. I thought the Kiwis had more common sense. I was always taught ignorance of the law was no excuse in all English common law countries. Now it seems we've turned that on its head for the Muslims. Baby and dishwater, isn't it? Still, cultural differences could encompass him having his feet cut off, chemical castration and his tongue, having offended, being taken out. That's my version of cultural differences, matey. From US helpers in Iraq to sex criminals in Colorado. 2 Iraqi men in their 20s have been convicted of a bloody sex crime in Colorado that left the victim, a woman in her 50s, in need of immediate surgery and a colostomy bag. 3 other Iraqi men, also in their 20s, were convicted on lesser charges as accessories. 4 points set this case apart. First, there is its brutality. Law enforcement officers described the July 2012 assault as rare and horrific and one of the worst in Colorado history. Second, all of these men once assisted US military forces in Iraq as informants and interpreters. Third, every one of them received permanent residency status in the US, due in part to efforts made by the US military members on their behalf. Fourth, this extraordinary case and the ties that bind it to the US military and the war in Iraq have received little coverage. The same visionaries who allowed these Iraqis into the USA now want the US to admit 20,000 or 30,000 Syrian Muslim refugees. Why not? No one will ever notice the cultural differences. World at 8. And we're getting ready to let thousands in here as well. We don't have to worry about our homegrowns coming back. We will be taking anybody. When this happens to someone's mother or grandmother, then heads surely must roll. I can only guess what happened, but to be left with such terrible injuries, normal rape is counted out. Bugger cultural differences, send them all back with their families and they can practice their cultural differences on their own middle-aged women. I'm frankly appalled at this, and this should be run by a civil court if the military aren't up to it. Or, of course, gun and wall. Thought for the day: why are we Brits so anti-white? You only have to read the papers, see various emails and listen to TV news, and only then will you realise it is us, the Brits, who are racist. Yes indeed, every single one of us is a racist bastard, and do you know why? The reason is simple. We do not like our own colour or our own tribes. This must be the reason for all the reverse politically correct thinking on the part of the people who we vote into power or onto our local councils. It's us who give them the power to denigrate and submerge any references to white power, white achievements, white culture and white history. You cannot see a play, read a book, watch TV or in fact go anywhere without seeing face to face the result of the self-hating genocide in action. Now, I've never subscribed to the white power thing because I know that everyone has a strong point, whether they be black or white, but it has been forced on me now to take sides in an argument that I never thought would see the light of day in this country, my country. Comparisons are odious, I know, but on watching a Chinese film the other day, I noticed that all the children in this large inner city preschool were Chinese. Their mothers were Chinese and also were there with their children. The language spoken was Cantonese, the food they ate was Chinese, and their teachers were Chinese. Now, I don't have a lot of time for the Chinese as per their truly awful animal rights, but as far as I can see, they have the business of promoting their own race and tribes down to a fine art, as indeed have the Japanese. Now, whilst acknowledging the Japs' very bad record in modern warfare, where they regarded other races as inferior, in fact even more so than the Third Reich, and they do not, like the Chinese, might immigrate to every other corner of the world to work in, they still do not encourage foreigners or gaijin to work, play or live in their country unless they wear that label of gaijin and are happy to wear it. But the indigenous race or tribe is still considered superior in their own country, and this is right. It is not wrong. When you go to either one of these countries as a visitor, you will eat their food, dress accordingly, watch and observe, and that's all. You will not immigrate to it, bring your relatives, expect or get any monetary benefits. You will not own your own business or home, and you will meet every obstacle going if you want to marry one of their women or impregnate one of their girls. You will not wear your own tribal dress or worship your own gods or import your own food, and will never, ever certainly have a hand in the running of that or those countries. All that and more is accorded to our immigrants, and by us and our governments no less. What do we have in the UK? Hosts of young girls trying to look as native as possible and only succeeding in looking like they've lost their tanning salons. Millions of abortions for white babies, probably euthanasia for white oldies in the future as dictated by Coronation Street. All partnerships, if not alternative lifestyles, to be with people of different and varying tribes and colours. Anything pertaining to white history, culture or religion to be verboten, and only foreign and new music and culture to be permitted. Anything food-wise to be imported or killed in a nasty foreign manner on our land and made the only available food for us, and our children to be raised, if at all, in a multicultural hellhole by multicultural cretins all reading from the same wicked hymn sheet, and that is the nearest thing we will get to church, if there are any left by then. And meanwhile, in the past, present and future, all the money which should have been going to promote our own people and culture and public services has been going out of the country with monotonous regularity under various guises of Help for Foreign Idiots Brigade, the HFIB. There has been, since the end of the last war, a systematic theft of our gold and money by various governments and the EU. But most of all it is the pension thefts and the UK government handouts lists that appall. Someone please tell me what the hell is wrong with all of the people that are running this country. But we all know in reality, don't we? If any politician doesn't read from the same diversity, multicultural or human rights page, they will never make it to the Houses of Parliament. Labour, Conservatives, Liberals all say we're broke and can't help our own seniors, veterans, orphans, homeless. However, in the past few years we have provided direct cash aid to Haiti, £1.4 billion, Hamas, £351 million, Pakistan, £2 billion, Libya, £1.45 billion, Egypt, £397 million, Mexico, £622 million, Russia, £380 million, Jordan, £463 million, Kenya, £816 million, Sudan, £870 million, Nigeria, £456 million, Uganda, £451 million, Congo, £359 million, Ethiopia, £981 million. South Africa, £566 million. Senegal, £698 million. Mozambique, £404 million. Zambia, £331 million. Kazakhstan, £304 million. Iraq, £1.8 billion. Tanzania, £554 million. Giving them all a total of literally billions of pounds, and the majority of them still hate us and still send us their illiterate and sick every single day. Whilst our retired seniors are still living on a fixed income, do they get any breaks? No. While our government and religious organisations pour hundreds of billions of pounds and tons of food to a vast list of foreign countries. We have hundreds of adoptable children who are shoved aside to make room for the adoption of foreign orphans who are considered more fashionable and make the adoptees appear multicultural and charitable. In the UK we have homeless without shelter, children going to bed hungry, elderly going without much needed medication or fuel to heat their homes, and mentally ill without treatment living on the streets. Our armed forces undermanned and underarmed, our police the same, and yet we still allow illegal, deprived people and other freeloaders onto our shores, where we are lining up to give them food, clothes, bedding, doctors, medical supplies and whatever else they need. My message is charity starts and ends at home. Can you imagine what it would be like if our governments gave us the same support they give to other countries? There would be no national debt, no cutbacks in our education and healthcare facilities. Our councils would be able to provide more care for our own sick and disabled, and more of our small cottage hospitals would remain open and staffed for our people, by our people. Our schools would be full of our tribes, our social housing would be for our tribes, our culture, history and religion would be of our tribes, and there would still be the great in Great Britain, not just retitled the UK, short for yuck. I would not be so angry if we had allowed a very few immigrants in for the last 40 years and laid down rules for which they had had to adhere, like other countries do, but not the Western ones, I fear. But I'm angry when I see and hear that most, if not all these people, do not appreciate the fact that in short, we Brits do go short in the long term to provide for many, if not most of these people and their extended tribes. Add to that the premise that we must love them and put them above our own tribes, and the whole debacle of immigration, benefits and housing becomes a laughingstock to the rest of the world. No one likes a loser, and due to the people we voted in and the cultures, or rather non-cultures, that we now seem to have adopted, this is UK 21st century, and I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. When you realise that we encourage white soldiers with white Canadian wives to go back to Canada and yet keep black rapists, murderers and worse here due to the ethos of a sodding country in Europe that we should have left to the Germans in the First World War, and yes, I mean Belgium, it makes one angry. It makes one angry when black murderers and Muslim terrorists still stay here and we pay for them and their various and extended families to do so as well. It makes one angry when old white men are found guilty of pouring or groping teenagers who visited them on set about 50 years ago when they should have known better, and are placed in the higher category of abuse and publicity than the Muslim abusers who have been systematically raping, selling off and making money from our underage children in our country for the last 40 odd years as a family concern, and yet are barely touched by these self-same laws. But then they're white oldies, aren't they? And we Brits don't like anyone we perceive above the masses of multicultural hordes that we seem to find attractive and want to be like in it. Frankly, I am surprised at the Brits. They have a long history of being on top, but since the last war they've been in decline and slid down the slippery slope to mud-doom, and I mean mud-doom. That is what makes me angry. The fact that we pay vast amounts of money to other countries, look after their people over here, take money from our own and give it away, and also make sure our children have no knowledge of their own history or culture, and in fact are steered educationally well away from anything white and English. This shows we have no pride and no sense of who we are, or rather were, and I find this sad in the extreme. We must remedy this, or else in London especially, where almost 1/10 of under 5s are Muslim, as claimed in the Times. So immigrants don't go or stay where they're not encouraged to do so, as in China, Japan, India, Africa or Arabia. In short, all of the countries who expect England and the Brits to pay for their own in and out of their country. Cut immigration and cut benefits for immigrants, and then we might have some money for our own tribes in the future. Put our white civilization first and discount all the anti-white crap that's in the media, because it's there for a purpose, to indoctrinate you to be anti-white and anti-yourself and anti-your ancestors. The British National Party would see this reversed, immigration stopped or capped, and all benefits to all immigrants investigated thoroughly. My message to the average Brit is see what you've done to us or allowed to be done to your tribes, and does this please you or not? Is the result what you wanted or expected? Does your country count or not? These are questions only you can answer. I can't. And finally, a job interview. Murphy applied for a fermentation operator post at the famous Irish firm based in Dublin of Guinness. A Pole applied for the same job, and since both applicants had similar qualifications, they were asked to take a test by the manager. When the results were in, both men had scored 19 out of 20. The manager went to Murphy and said, "Thank you for coming to the interview, but we've decided to give the Pole the job." Murphy: "And why would you be doing that? We both got 19 questions correct. This being Ireland and me being Irish, surely I should get the job." Manager: "We've made our decision not on the correct answers, but on the question you got wrong." Murphy: "And just how would one incorrect answer be better than another?" Manager: "Simple. On question number 7, the Pole wrote down 'I don't know.' You put down 'Neither do I.'" You've been listening to The World at 8. I am Lynn Mozar and I wish you all a very good night.